Hello, you join me once again in the Underdesk in the search for elusive audio quality. I am joined by a wrap of cellophane, Marvel's top trumps, and cramped up legs. So, let's get started. So, last time I said I had these two goals in mind. Make sure that I can read in and create new tile maps, and also create the first enemy. The problem is, while I was making these, I realised that there was a lot of other things I needed to do to make sure that they all worked. So I also have a goal 0, because we're programmers, we like to count from 0. And then I also have -1 to -4, because the Geneva Convention can't reach me down here. So let's start at thing -4, graphical issues. There were a few graphical issues before that I was trying to fix, and then some even wackier new ones popped up while I was getting the window to work with new levels. So I've been fixing that, making sure everything runs and looks okay. Next on the list, thing -3. While I was reading files in, I was reading them in chunks and then creating the relevant parts. And turns out, due to some botched maths, I was massively over-reading for the tile map details and reading in a bunch of crap from my hard drive, meaning when I was trying to read in later sections, like objects, antivirus would trigger because I was attacking my computer.
That's no good.
So, I fixed that, along with some other issues like sprites deleting themselves on a whim. This is fine. At -2, we have saves. I now have a series of flags that I can write into while the game is playing, and when a tile map is exited, these flags get saved out in order to store progress. I have local flags for small things like, where was this block pushed? Have you opened this chest yet? I then have a larger series of global flags that can keep track of what's changed in the entire game world, like what bosses were beaten, what items have you got, quests complete, and so on. This links us nicely into -1, conditionals. Often in a game, you don't want to load everything in all the time. Say, for example, you went on a quest with an NPC and they died at the end of the quest, asking you to deliver their axe back to the child in the village. If you go back to the village, you would expect that NPC not to be there, because they died, but if they're still there, talking about the quest, troubles in the village, wondering if a hero will come up to fight the monsters, that's really bad form. Therefore, I now have a system in place that when you want to spawn an object, it can check various things with the local and global flags, making sure that stuff like that doesn't happen. And finally, 0 is a way of making the enemies seem more smart, but I'll discuss that when I talk about the enemies later. Finally, we're back in normal numbers again. Thing number 1. I wanted to be able to load in levels with entrances and exits predefined so I don't have to program in anything in myself. Now, the reason I want to do this so quickly is that there are games I've made before where I've had to stop because I had to program everything from enemy positions to level coordinates in by hand. Later on, for a few projects, I made my own tools for this. However, they crashed half the time when you opened them, and adding to that spaghetti code is one of the last things that I want to do. As you can see in the background though, I have now achieved my goal. I'm able to build new tile maps in the editor and place down entrances and exits to attach these maps to the ones I've already built. I've even added the ability to create extra collision in the map, although there's no sprites for it yet. I can also extend this system, meaning that whenever I create a new enemy or a new object, I can just slot it into the system and get back to making the map. All you need to do is save the project, run the Go script, and then hop into the game, and everything you just made is right there for you to check. The second thing I wanted to do was enemies, but due to the dearth of other stuff I had to deal with, they haven't come quite as far as I wanted them to yet. In terms of AI, I actually have to hit buttons on my keyboard to get them to change behaviours, but those behaviours are there. As I touched on in point 0, they have a way of moving about that makes them look more smart than I've actually made them. I got this idea from someone else's devlog on YouTube actually, which is that you can put various reactions on them from their environment around them, and then they sort of just move about like they're being pushed. So currently, they can move away from the tile map so that they don't get stuck in corners. They can run away from the player, or they can follow the player. And they also push away from each other so they don't all clump up in one position. Now, obviously, there are some issues with how strongly each of these values are weighted. They can't walk through corridors, for example, because it's too close to a tile map, although they can seemingly push each other through. So That's a lot of weird behavior to deal with, but it's a really nice building block to get started. In the future, I hope to prevent small problems of this from arising, and maybe I can make them look even smarter. So, what's next? Well, hopefully less stuff creeping out of nowhere that I have to deal with. I'm also hoping to have players and enemies be able to actually attack each other, so, there's any game to work off of. For now, though, I need to go stretch my legs. Goodbye.